Okay, so our last video just went through the 15 minutes or so of the Khan Academy through Stanford showing digestion of food. I hope you enjoyed it. We will move on now. This is just to kind of highlight a few things of absorption. So digestion is the breaking down of food. Absorption is bringing it into our body, because if you think about it, we're kind of like a hose or a donut. We're hollow on the inside, all the way through from our mouth to our anus. It's a tube. So we want to absorb those nutrients into our body so we receive them. And there's the mucosal membrane, mucosa right here, showing the mucosa membrane. And it's the lining of the GI tract. It has special structures to facilitate absorption. And then the villi are the folds in the lining that allow the food to be absorbed and the nutrients to be absorbed. The enterocytes are absorptive cells in the villi. She talked about them, so they're going to be over here. And the capillaries and the lacteal, small vessels, are inside each. Oops, sorry. Oh, no. So here again, the lacteal is green instead of yellow in this diagram. So the fats are going to go in here, and the proteins and the carbohydrates are going to go into the capillaries. So I hope that was helpful. This is showing you the stomach, the pyloric sphincter, that's chyme that leaves, small intestines. You got the liver up here releasing a lot of enzymes. You also have a cross section right here. They blow it up. It looks like those shoes that have those soles. They say that if our intestines were all spread out, they would fill up about a tennis court. So it's a big surface area to try to draw in nutrients. The brush border is actually like this, waving to try to draw nutrients in. This is the brush border blown up. So, okay. Now, our next slide, I'm just going to play a little bit of it. There's 3 videos in here by a really great teacher, I think. And so I'll just play a little bit of one. So you're welcome to go back and watch this if you're interested, you want to learn more about the digestive system. There's 3 parts to it. He's the 30-foot tube, he's funny on top of it, and then the mouth to stomach scenario, and then intestines and accessory organs. So I'm just going to leave it here. We're just going to watch.
We all have our reasons for eating nachos at 3 in the afternoon. I happen to have my own. And don't ask, it's personal. But more generally, we all eat any kind of food to accomplish 2 simple things: to obtain the energy we need to stay alive, and to get the raw materials required for building all of our tissues and stuff. That's because when it comes down, food are made of stuff, by which I mean matter, made of certain kinds of atoms, and both you and food have energy stored in the bonds between those atoms. So all living things need to take in stuff and energy and convert it into slightly different stuff and energy. And you can get some of the things you need pretty easily, like in order to get oxygen for respiration, to unleash the chemical energy in your food, you just have to inhale. But you can't just breathe in the stuff you need to build DNA or actin or a phospholipid bilayer. So, how does your body really acquire stuff? That's where the nachos come in. This cheesy, crunchy dish is made of all different kinds of biological matter, like carbohydrates and fat and protein, and it contains a certain, probably shocking amount of calories, which is how we measure energy stored in the chemical bonds in food. So if I take like a 100-calorie bite of nachos, it's probably with this much cheese wouldn't even be a very big bite. I can convert the chemical energy stored in those carbohydrates and proteins and fats to feed my muscle and heart cells and maybe like walk a mile, an activity that happens to use about 100 calories. But I can't just swallow the nachos and watch the lump of them travel straight to my heart or leg muscles. In order to actually use this food, I have to convert the biological matter into something my body can work with on the cellular level, which, as you know, is pretty darn tiny. And the work of converting the stuff in food into the stuff that's in my body is done by my digestive system. Human digestion occurs in 6 main steps, some of which you...
Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. So you're welcome to go back and look at all 3 of those if that so interests you. The next slide. Whoops.
We all have
Oops. Don't want that. The next one, we're going to watch this one because it's really, really great about friendly bacteria. It's a TED Talk. So let's go for it.
species of bacteria, viruses, and fungi live on or inside of us, and maintaining a good, balanced relationship with them is to our advantage. Together, they form the gut microbiome, a rich ecosystem that performs a variety of functions in our bodies. The bacteria in our guts can break down food the body can't digest, produce important nutrients, regulate the immune system, and protect against harmful germs. We don't yet have the blueprint for exactly which good bacteria a robust gut needs, but we do know that it's important for a healthy microbiome to have a variety of bacterial species. Many factors affect our microbiomes, including our environment, medications like antibiotics, and even whether we were delivered by C-section or not. Diet, too, is emerging as one of the leading influences on the health of our guts. And while we can't control all these factors, we can manipulate the balance of our microbes by paying attention to what we eat. Dietary fiber from foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, and whole grains is the best fuel for gut bacteria. When bacteria digest fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish the gut barrier, improve immune function, and can help prevent inflammation, which reduces the risk of cancer. And the more fiber you ingest, the more fiber-digesting bacteria colonize your gut. In a recent study, scientists exchanged the regular high-fiber diets of a group of rural South Africans with the high-fat, meat-heavy diets of a group of African Americans. After just 2 weeks on the high-fat, low-fiber, Western-style diet, the rural African group showed increased inflammation of the colon, as well as a decrease of butyrate. That's a short-chain fatty acid thought to lower risk of colon cancer. Meanwhile, the group that switched to a high-fiber, low-fat diet had the opposite result. So what goes wrong with our gut bacteria when we eat low-fiber processed foods? Lower fiber means less fuel for the gut bacteria, essentially starving them until they die off. This results in less diversity and hungry bacteria. In fact, some can even start to feed on the mucus lining. We also know that specific foods can affect gut bacteria. In one recent microbiome study, scientists found that fruits, vegetables, tea, coffee, red wine, and dark chocolate were correlated with increased bacterial diversity. These foods contain polyphenols, which are naturally occurring antioxidant compounds. On the other hand, foods high in dairy fat, like whole milk, and sugar-sweetened sodas were correlated with decreased diversity. How food is prepared also matters. Minimally processed, fresh foods generally have more fiber and provide better fuel. So lightly steamed, sautéed, or raw vegetables are typically more beneficial than fried dishes. There are also ways of preparing food that can actually introduce good bacteria, also known as probiotics, into your gut. Fermented foods are teeming with helpful probiotic bacteria, like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Originally used as a way of preserving foods before the invention of refrigeration, fermentation remains a traditional practice all over the world. Foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh, and kombucha provide variety and vitality to our diets. Yogurt is another fermented food that can introduce helpful bacteria into our guts. That doesn't necessarily mean that all yogurt is good for us, though. Brands with too much sugar and not enough bacteria may not actually help. These are just general guidelines. More research is needed before we fully understand exactly how any of these foods interact with our microbiomes. We see positive correlations, but the insides of our guts are difficult places to make direct observations. For instance, we don't currently know whether these foods are directly responsible for the changes in diversity, or if something more complicated is happening. While we're only beginning to explore the vast wilderness inside our guts, we already have a glimpse of how crucial our microbiomes are for digestive health. The great news is we have the power to fire up the bacteria in our bellies. Fill up on fibers, fresh and fermented foods, and you can trust your gut to keep you going strong.
Okay, so we're going to stop the video here, and just to amplify, we definitely need fiber, and we get fiber from non-animal sources. Animal sources have no fiber. Okay.